think it's time to talk about the D word. A lot of us can agree that our parents never actively taught us about money, but one thing we're all clued up on is how to get debt. We may not know how to get a tax-free saving, but we don't need help getting a personal loan. We may not understand how to open an account to buy shares, but we have no issues opening a credit card. So, as a frugal 33-year-old, I want to take you through 4 reasons to get out of debt, which will be the first video in the debt management series. The first reason is to confidently respond to life and emergencies. On average, South Africans spend 62% of their incomes servicing debt. So that means a lot of us only have 40% of our incomes to work with, which doesn't even get us through the month. So the average person is basically living in survival mode, and any minor emergency can quickly become a disaster when you have a few months' salary. And the thing about being heavily in debt is that you likely don't have an emergency saving, because you're often living paycheck to paycheck. So if anything goes wrong during the month, there is often nowhere to go except to acquire more debt. So the debt becomes a cycle that keeps repeating over and over again, which is why it's essential to start with an emergency fund before you start tackling your debt. And the other day, I took my car in for a service, and it's currently out of service plan. So when I called to make the booking, they had told me that they will call me back to tell me what the quote is so that I can confirm if I still want to bring the car. So it ended up costing me about 6,000 Rand. But the most comforting thing in that moment was knowing that whatever amount they came back with, I would be able to pay it. In the same month, the body corporate at my complex rolled out a 5-month special levy, which is an additional 1,000 Rand a month that we need to pay. So in 1 month, I had to come up with 7,000 Rand, which is something I would not have been able to do if I was up to my eyeballs in debt repayments. The second reason to get out of debt is less stress and better mental health. I don't know about you, but the 25th of every month is my favorite day. Well, except on my birthday month. But I've come to realize that it's a very stressful day for others. And the reason for that is if your whole salary is gone before you even see it, that's depressing. Because there's no longer anything to look forward to. I would even hate going to work if I felt like there's nothing that I can tangibly say I am working for. And if we're being honest, there is no stress quite like financial stress. And it's also traumatic when you grow up in an environment where your parents are constantly worried about how to make ends meet. I remember when I was in school, if your fees were not paid on time, you would actually go sit in the foyer the whole day while other kids are in class. This is why I wholly support the idea that you need to be financially stable before you have kids. Not rich, just stable. And outside of affecting you and your family's quality of life, financial stress will affect your relationships, it will affect your performance at work, and it will also affect your overall well-being. It is hard to enjoy life when you are stressed about money. I, for one, wouldn't mind my life falling apart in other areas as long as I'm financially okay. I would take being heartbroken over being broke any day. Now, the third reason to get out of debt is having lifestyle freedom. Most of us use money to buy more and more things, but have you ever thought about using money to buy yourself freedom, to buy yourself time? I was on a work trip to the Northern Cape last week. I left on Sunday and came back on Thursday. Then on Friday, I left for a church trip to Bila and came back on Sunday. So I was totally exhausted, but I still had to go to work on Monday. And in that moment, I felt the full weight of not having freedom. I felt like a prisoner or a child who has no autonomy over their own life. But if I had money, I could easily decide where I'm going to be on any given day. One of the ideas that I've been toying with is possibly taking a sabbatical and using my savings to fund my life for a year. So I would use this time to just do the things that I want to do. Maybe even work on a business concept and just be a mom. It's so much harder to make decisions like these when the bank is waiting for their payments every month. That's why I'm also trying to aggressively pay off my home loan. Last year when I switched jobs, I didn't get my salary for 1 month. And this was because I was actually on a work back contract with my previous employer to work back my maternity leave. And because I left before the contract was complete, I had to pay back the outstanding balance of the contract. And that is a decision I could easily make because my budget wasn't payment heavy. But if I had been drowning in debt, I would have been stuck at a job that I was starting to hate. And the fourth and final reason to get out of debt is if you want to build wealth. I know a lot of people want to create generational wealth. That is actually not a goal of mine. I don't care about becoming wealthy, so generating that for other people is not in the cards for me. But if that is something that you want to achieve, then having a lot of debt could be a hindrance for you. Dave Ramsey likes to say that your number one wealth building tool is your income. So when you tie it up in debt, you're essentially giving that tool to the banks. And the problem with debt is the fact that it has a lot of interest charged. If you buy a 1 million Rand house today at prime lending rate, it would essentially cost you 2.4 million Rand in total. So 1.4 of that is just interest. So you're essentially giving the bank 1.4 million Rand. That is money that you can no longer use and you can no longer invest. Now, if you top that up with a car payment, top that up with credit cards, top that up with clothing accounts, top that up with cell phone contracts. How much money are you losing in interest that you could have just invested? I saw this debate recently on one of the City Makoti's videos where people were debating on whether or not you should be trading your car every 3 years. Some of the people argued that you should, so that your car is always within a service plan. When my car was still under finance, I was paying about 8,200 a month. And now that I actually just serviced it for the first time outside of the service plan, I only paid about 6,000 Rand. But imagine if I trade the car and got something else. I would essentially be keeping an installment that is 8.2 or more just to get out of a once a year payment. How does that make sense? The problem with trading your car is that you never get rid of the monthly payment. You stay stuck in one place. But when you pay off your car, you now have the funds to do something else. When I paid off my car, I now had 8.2 that I could do anything with. I chose to put that 8.2 into my savings, which are now sitting inside my bond. And this has brought me even closer to paying off my apartment. When I do pay off my apartment next year, I will have an additional 7,000 Rand that I can also do anything I want with. I could decide that I don't want to cook anymore and have cooked meals delivered to my place. I could take my child to the Montessori creche that I've been eyeing. I can start wearing more expensive clothes if I want to. Or I could even put it away and spend the money on an overseas trip. And the whole point is that money that is not going towards debt can go directly toward your own goals. When you get to keep most of your income, you can achieve your goals even faster.